So the Discipleship Network we've been running this for 3 or 4 years now, I think. Um, it, it, One of the key things we want to say is it's absolutely not specialized. This is not for people who think that this is a specialized area that only special people with special gifts should engage in. But actually there's a one anothering in the body of Christ whereby we are interdependent as members of a body. We need each other part of this body to be functioning well. And God, making us interdependent, has also very much made us our brother and sister's keeper. So that if we talk about discipleship, we're talking about how we ourselves are growing towards maturity. Disciple making, how we help others to grow to maturity. And that being not so much a thing that we would do to people, but just a way of relating, a way of being in the body of Christ. Normal Christian life, actually, where we love people enough to want to serve God's purposes in their lives, want to see them, and this is a phrase that I use often, find their place and make their contribution in the body of Christ. So this network has been just taking those core ideas and just unpacking some of the principles, unpacking what that might look like. We've found, and I find this over the years as well, it's terribly disappointing to people to realise this network is not going to give them a programme or a formula or a technique, but rather we're trying to paint a biblical, theological picture for what the body of Christ is intended to be like, what health looks like. And of course all of that so that the body of Christ functions well to do what God's made it to do, and that's to bless the nations. So discipleship, mission, individual growth to maturity, helping others to maturity, and the kind of leadership that helps all of that happen, those are some of the concerns. So who's it for? Yeah, everybody really. So this theme of strength through weakness, I think, is profoundly important when we're thinking about discipleship. One of the things when we begin to realize the way the body of Christ is intended to function, and especially the way that leaders are intended to facilitate, serve that functioning, help each person find their place, make their contribution, the question of the use of power becomes really quite central to this, and the potential for the abuse of power. So one of the themes we've been talking about has been this post-COVID world, but it seems that right now we're in a moment, a cultural moment perhaps, in the church of real crisis in leadership, where if we were really truly understanding what Paul says in 2 Corinthians 12 about strength being power made perfect, or power brought to its telos in weakness, if we really grasped that, then at a stroke we would abolish a huge amount of the dysfunction in our churches. So one of the things we've talked about in the network, and will continue to talk about, is an understanding of power, of authority, of leadership, of influence, whatever label you want to apply to that it's the means for humbly serving others. It's never the means to get what you want done or get what you want from others. So this is one of the huge problems that I think we have, is that we can end up seeing people as a means towards our end. And if we treat people as a means to an end, we're defacing the image of God. If we grasp this idea of power made perfect through weakness, and realize that this is not our power getting what we want or using people or manipulating them, then we will see a much healthier, more functional body of Christ. One of the topics that we've really focused on this year has been a very core key topic. Of course, it applies to all Christians everywhere, but we've centered on Ephesians 2:18. And Ephesians 2:18 is just this wonderful verse that expresses the heart of Christian experience, Christian life. So Paul says there that through Christ, through him, we both have access to the Father by the one Spirit. So we have fellowship with a triune God there, just in this one little sentence, or part of a sentence actually. And exploring then the issue that if that's not enough for us to make us content and secure, then nothing's going to be enough. If access to the Father through Christ by the Spirit isn't enough to make us content and secure and give us everything that we need for life, then what will happen, to the extent that we're insecure or discontent, then we will use every opportunity, our power, our relationships, our money, our time, our talents. We will use those to try to get from people what we perceive we lack, or to defend ourselves against perceived threat. And both of those things, trying to get something from others or to defend ourselves against others, both of those things are the exact opposite of the love to which we're called. So right at the heart of what should be a community that embodies the love that we've received from Christ, right at the heart of that is this question: do we receive and then give? Or are we insecure and discontent and grasping at others for what we think we can get from them? And it seems to me that pretty much every situation where there's leadership dysfunction, or where there have been abuses, and of course in this particular cultural moment, they're all over the place, and we're seeing them all coming to the surface all at once, it seems. But right at the heart in each of those situations is this fundamental issue that somebody was not, in moments of decision, God wasn't enough. Fellowship with a triune God wasn't enough, and they grasped to get something else from others and failed to love them at that point. So that's been at the heart of what we've been talking about this week. So this network is being overseen by Paul Edwards, who's a pastor in Merthyr, and we have been trying to connect with people, not just during the network times in September, but also to give other opportunities for folks to connect. That's been a little bit more difficult, but I think that there's more of a desire for people to connect in that way. So if somebody wants to explore these kinds of issues further, then one of the possibilities would be for us to have some either online or in-person gatherings at a semi-regular basis through the year to take some of these issues, explore them a little bit further. And if someone's interested in that, then their first port of call would be to contact Paul Edwards through the Leadership Forum website.